Okay, good morning. We are in Hilchos Hamoed, Hilchos of business and transactions, purchasing. Tav Kuf Lametet, and this year's sponsor, L'ilui Nishmas Reb Moshe Chaim ben Reb Shimon. So, thanks to Rav Gershon, he brought in the example of buying toys. It's very common to buy toys on Chol Hamoed for the Afikomen after the first night of Pesach. So, this is, as long as it's a Orach Chaim, no questions, should be 100% mutter. Just want to explain a bit better the difference between Seif, Daled, and Hay that we left off with. We saw in Daled that in general it's Aser, unless you're going to make a good profit and you want to use some of it on Yom Tov. And then Hay, it just seemed to be like 100% mutter. So the main difference is in Hay, it's something that comes up rarely, and you're not expecting to be able to make profit if you wait a week. But in Daled, alright, you'll probably still be able to make more or less the same profit or a similar profit, or still be able to make a profit. The deals will still be around. Maybe not as perfect or as easy, but they're still around. So that's the main difference. And so what happens about, you're a trader, you're an agent, and you want to sell things between people, you're a middleman, whatever it is. So thanks for Ruvain pointing that out. So anything that's automated, you set it up, it's online, you did it before Yom Tov, that should not be any problem. If it's done, if you have to actually make a phone call and make any kind of deal yourself, any kind of tircha, any kind of a business deal, so we learned, if you're going to make a big profit and you spend something extra for Yom Tov, the general minhag is to be meiko, and that's okay. Davar ha'aved is going to be mutter. But in a case where you don't own the item, and if you don't do the deal now, you're going to lose out. You won't have that deal, right? Let's say you know about someone wants to sell, 10,000 pieces of this item, and you have a buyer, you have a seller, you can make the shidduch, and then you make a profit. But otherwise, probably some other agent trader is gonna make the shidduch, and that item won't be around afterwards. So there's definitely some room to be meiko, because that can be considered a davar ha'aved. But I would basically say, if you're going to make a big profit, so you have two reasons why it's mutter. Either because you're going to make a big profit and just spend something for Yom Tov, or that case is probably considered davar ha'aved. And if you're going to make a very small profit, so I would just say, why do you want to work on Yom Tov when we're not supposed to be working on Yom Tov, we're supposed to be learning, spending time with our families. Why would you want to, for a small little profit, to be doing such a thing? But, okay. That's to cover that. Shopping. Can you shop for, let's say, as an activity? Can you go to the store, you want to buy, it's fun, I want to go buy a dress. Retail therapy. Whatever you want to call it. I'm sure there's a few different names too. Very good. That's a great one. Yeah. Okay. So I asked 3 Rabbanim. I mean, it doesn't seem very mutter, because that's exactly what Chazal were goes there. Even if it's more convenient for you, more fun for you, that's one of it could be a malacha, not be a malacha, but that's one of the things that there goes there. So, anyways, for example, I spoke to Rabbi Kornfeld, Rabbi David, and Rabbi Davidovich, and they all said for sure it would be aser. Although some people are mekel, there's no real. Rabbi Tauber from LA, probably most, if not all, Rabbanim would say that, unless, of course, you have a situation where it's on sale, you can come into davar ha'aved, you're traveling and you're not going to be here after the moed. That's another reason, because it's like the Yerid that's leaving or you're leaving. That also could be considered davar ha'aved. So there are definitely some ways when it's mutter. We'll get into a couple more interesting cases after we finish the end of the morning, because it'll help when you see a little bit more inside. It'll bring things up a little bit more. Okay, Vav. Metzia asur litroach ulachapes aleha. If you find some free merchandise, and you wanna take it. Kegon, you have a nahar shehetzif dagim al sfato, like you walk by the river and you notice, wow, look at all the fish, I don't know, that got swept off onto the shore, and now you can, they're fresh, they just got swept off and are onto the shore, and now you can take them. Asur le'osfam, it's asur to gather them, kidei le'kovsham, in order now you can start pickling them so you can save them, or maybe freeze them. This you're only allowed to do if it's, if you're going to use it during Chol Hamoed. Now, so we know if l'tzorach Hamoed, that's going to be a mutter. And the poskim say it's not exactly the same as revach, a big revach, and davar ha'aved. Because in all the cases we spoke about before, when we were more mekel, that's your normal livelihood. You're a trader, whatever, you have a store. When that's your business, then that's your livelihood. You need that to live, and it's not a big tircha, so we allow it for little revach cases in davar ha'aved. But in something when it's pure, just, mina shamayim, it looks like it's your lucky day, so then, and there's pure revach, it's not your livelihood, so then that's, it's not a deal that you're getting for work. So in those cases, the halacha is to be machmer. Okay, right. Just also cases of davar ha'aved, just to make sure, we might see a couple cases, but just to bring it together, if we're going to see this in a moment, losing customers, and now they can't come to you, they're going to have to go to your competitor. And once they're at your competitor, well, it's normal for them to stay. So you're going to be losing them forever. So that's called davar ha'aved. So that is a major, legitimate heter to have your business open, preferably betzina, preferably just take the phone calls so you don't miss this customer. But losing customers is a major, legit heter. You losing a job. You're the employee. If you tell your boss you're not going to work, it's Chol Hamoed, I'm taking off for the week. I know I was in dental school. They can just fail you for that semester. So, losing your job, losing all your credits for missing a few days, that's also for sure mutter. That's a huge davar ha'aved. Sometimes you have to pay your employees. You can't just not pay them for a week and a half, or a week. And now you're going to have to pay them salary. That's also davar ha'aved. So that, it depends on the case, but that very well could be mutter. Sometimes rent. You can't afford to pay rent if you have zero income for a third of the month. That also could be an issue. Alright, or you only have, this is your time to sell. You're in a specific business and you only have, let's say 1 week to sell. Otherwise the items are the shoppers aren't going to be around, or the merchandise won't be worth anything. So again, obvious cases of davar ha'aved. Okay, Zayin. Hamoed chaveru al chefetz o al schora al tanai she'im lo yifra lo lesof shmona yamim yeh kanoi lo. So you want to lend something out. Now, what we mentioned before that was mutter with halva, collecting loans, we pointed out that's 100% mutter. Initiating loans lachatchila, that's also a problem of schora. But collecting loans, that's what was 100% mutter. So now you want to lend to somebody money.
You're willing to lend to someone money on condition he gives you a pikadon.
Right. He gives you a pikadon. And then, if he doesn't pay you back on time, this actual case is, I believe you did, it depends what your case is. But here I believe you did your loan before Yom Tov. And now, the payment time is, you have to pay back the loan during Chol Hamoed. And if you don't pay back, the case is 8 days, but it doesn't matter, the loan ends during Chol Hamoed. So it could be either way.
If you loaned it before Chol Hamoed, then...
It depends.
Talk about, you failed to pay the loan, how much money you got. If you get some more problematic, you loan him on Chol Hamoed.
Here. So the real case is it could be either way. This case, pretty sure, the malva was done before Yom Tov. And now, the time to pay up is on Chol Hamoed. And you told the guy, so therefore, the loan situation right now, there's no problem. During Chol Hamoed, he has to pay you. He doesn't pay you, the mashkon is yours. That's the deal. It becomes yours during Chol Hamoed. One second. This is the opposite. After Hamoed. And therefore, be a problem. Okay, so you're saying the Moed is during Chol Hamoed? Fine. Alright, we'll take it.
It's complicated, but I believe
Okay, fine. We'll take it. Anyways, well, I'll just finish saying that one case anyway. If you did the Mahava before, even though that's not this case, fine. Even though the Halva was done before, and now during the 8 days it becomes yours, so that is a problem. Because you're making the Mekach Memkar during Chol Hamoed, but that's, never mind. Well, right. So that's a question because of it depends if you lose you lose it. Fine. The case over here, is you lent it on during the Moed itself, but you did the Halva during the Moed b'derech heter, and now you say it's going to be you took a pikadon on Chol Hamoed, and then it'll become yours after Chol Hamoed, after 8 days. So therefore, it's for sure after Chol Hamoed, right? No Chol Hamoed is longer than 8 days. So then, now it's going to be yours after Chol Hamoed. So then, is that mutter or aser? So yesh matirin. Some say it's 100% mutter, because at the time of the halva it was. So it happens to be it is a machloket rishonim if you're allowed to do a halva on Chol Hamoed itself. We generally say it's aser to initiate a halva, but it is a machloket. So we'll leave that part as a machloket.
I assume unless it's for...
You'll even see from the words of the Shulchan Aruch. And generally, to do a halva, l'maisa we hold as aser, even according to the Shulchan Aruch. And so fine. The halva during Chol Hamoed is aser unless it's done b'derech heter, which will come up with a case, such as davar ha'aved, whatever the case is. We'll come up with one shortly. So then, now, if that was mutter, so that was mutter. And now it's becoming your object only. It wasn't done on Mafreya, it's becoming your object after 8 days. So then, technically, it should be no problem. Right? If you hold you're allowed to do hava, or it's in a case where you're allowed to do hava during Yom Tov, and it's only chal after Yom Tov, you did nothing wrong. That's the yesh matirim. However, yesh osrim. The second opinion says it's aser. We'll assume you did the halva b'derech heter, even though we hold it's aser. Then, in general, but now, what about, so then if the halva was mutter, what should be the problem to take a pikadon when it's going to be chal 8 days later? So technically, there is no problem. But the Rishonim say, this yesh osrim say it's aser. Why? It's basically a gzera, a takana. Because then what will happen? Every single person will buy whatever they want on every Chol Hamoed, and they'll just say, don't worry, I'm taking it now, and it'll become yours. Right now I'm borrowing it, and it'll become yours after Chol Hamoed. They'll turn the whole thing into a joke, into a rama. So therefore, it becomes aser. Sorry for the confusion. And Lamaisa, we always say yesh v'yesh, halacha kebasra. That's the general rule. So the Chaim says that. That's very much more clear for Sfardim. We always go like the second opinion, and we have two opinions, so he points out that means, if it's real bishat adchak, hefsir meruba, you could be mekel. The Mishnah Berurah's wording is a little bit different, like generally the Poskai Ashkenaz, that we usually follow the second opinion, but they're more independent thinking, a little bit less into whatever the Shulchan Aruch says, but Lamaisa says the same thing, you should be machmer, yesh osrim, and that's the halacha, unless you need to, and don't make such a big deal. If you see your neighbor being mekel, he has what to rely on. Okay. Sorry, it took longer than it should. Chet. Ovei kochavim mazelet shepar Yisrael yayin b'cholo. Mutar l'kal imenu dekamatzil miyado dami. Now, you take from a non-Jew, and he has to, you lend him money, or you lend him something, and he owes you now, you're allowed to take from him the merchandise, or money, whatever it is, the yayin, whatever it is, whatever he owes you, because if you don't take it now, you don't know if you're ever going to get a chance to take it again. Like right now, he's offering it to you, you should take it because you don't know if he'll give it to you.
Opened the barrel and made it stam yinam? Is that the point?
I think the part really adds multi-layers of complexities here, but...
So the halacha here is davar ha'aved. Whatever the case of davar ha'aved is, it's mutter. To prevent him to make an yayin nesach, but you don't even need to go that far. You just, anytime you have a legit worry that he might not pay you. Now, lamaisa nowadays, most of us have that worry on everybody. And that's just the Messias, and that's the minhag. But, no, it's true. I also heard that from Rabbi,
I'm laughing at the truth.
I also heard that from Rabbi Berkowitz, what's it called? Yeah, and especially in those days for Goyim. That's when you really had the bigger worry. Or they didn't want to say that about Jews, so they just worded it this way. Right, for not being Tavei, right. So
even though you cannot drink it yourself during Chol Hamoed, it's something that you could sell. You could sell.
It's a machlokes, actually.
Okay.
Or you can give it as a matana.
Okay,
So
Ted, Mi shetzarich liknot yain ve'itabatzer letzorach shtiyat kol hashana. A person wants to buy wine during the harvest season when it's good, letzorach shtiyat kol hashana, for the wine for the whole year. Ve'im yavor hamoed, but if you wait till after hamoed, lo yimtza kamo shematzata, you won't find for now the same price, the same item. So it's a davar ha'aved hu mutar liknot takin achaviot ulazaftan. So you're allowed to buy it, and once you're allowed to buy it, you're even allowed to do malachos gemuros of building barrels or fixing your barrels or shmiring them with tar, whatever you need to do for your barrels. As long as you don't have kavana to finish, as long as this wasn't your kavana lechatchila to save and wait to buy it and to build your barrels during Chol Hamoed. But you can't buy more than you need to drink for during the year, because that's all you need. If it's just to make business, so the following halacha gets a little fuzzy, and we'll just leave it a little fuzzy, because generally speaking, if it's just to buy extra merchandise, extra wine to sell for throughout the year, one is not allowed to. You have to, but let me just finish reading the Haggah. But if you won't be able to sell it at all after Yom Tov, then it'll be called davar aved, and you won't be able to. So this is like preempting revach to make profit for later. So it's a little fuzzy. Perhaps one mahalach is for a small profit. This is kind of like what the Mishnah Berurah writes. If it's for a small profit, then we would say it's aser to buy it during Chol Hamoed. Wait till afterwards; it'll be available afterwards. But if there's going to be a big profit loss, so then we say, okay, that's part of Ravach, just go ahead and buy it, use a little bit, drink a little bit now if you can. And also, if afterwards, it'll be around, but the price is going to go up so much, you won't be able to compete. And then you won't be able to sell it at all, basically. So then, of course, that's for sure davar ha'aved. Okay, I think that covers that. Okay, good. Now, people want to sell spices or vegetables, things that don't last. So then you're allowed to open up and sell, even in public, because it's things that won't last. Because everyone knows that it's Orach Hamoed. Let me read the beginning of Yud Aleph.
That's already every...
Yeah, so every makolet. So I'll just say it. The minhag and the halacha is every makolet store is allowed to be open. Also, Dirshu mentions it, I think B'Shem Rav Yashiv and I think B'Shem Rav Shlomo Zalman. Those are a couple of his, Dirshu usually just quotes the same few. And they say the makolet's allowed to sell anything. You don't have to start, boarding up sections that are not necessarily. Once it's open, it's mutter to sell. And once it's mutter to sell for Jews, you're allowed to sell to non-Jews, etc. Read the beginning of Yud Aleph. Now, things that people would assume are for after the Moed, so he writes certain types of dishes, bedding, I don't know, those type of things that people normally have, or even some fruit, I don't know, or dishes. Yeah. So then, right. So then, right.
Like grain that doesn't spoil.
So all these things that people are going to assume it's a tzorach hamoed, so then these things you should only sell betzina. And I haven't seen much on it, but I'm assuming that we're a little bit makel on this one, because now we assume everything is the tzorach hamoed, or you wouldn't buy, you wouldn't sell. So that's the chashash.
It's only that tzorach hamoed.
It could be, but it's not
necessary. It's not obvious that it's tzorach hamoed.
Okay.
It could be, but not necessarily.
So, but toy stores and other stores, clothing stores, they're not. If they're open, they're open. I don't know. But okay, we'll leave it as a question for right now.
Yeah, the toys are never open for children, so
right. And nowadays, people assume they're doing it l'tzarach hamoed. So I don't know if it has to be the same mitzias. It's all based on chashad. Right. The only difference is chashad. Right. So if there is no chashad nowadays, it wouldn't be an issue. So let me just Ketzad. So if the store is open on the corner, or a mavoi, or a main mavoi mafulash, or just a main. No, so this is not mavoi mafulash, where it's like not a common place where people go. So then, or a person's house. Poteach kedarcho, then you're allowed to open like normal. But if it's a mavoi mafulash, whatever that is nowadays, but basically an open street. Poteach achas v'noel achas. So you have to have one door a little bit open, one door closed. In other words, not so obvious. Ve'erev Yom Tov. Okay, this is more interesting. L'maisa ve'erev Yom Tov. Ha'achron shel Chag Sukkos motziu me'ater teshuk v'peros b'shvil kavod Yom Tov. So the question is, can you buy on Chol HaMoed for Yom Tov? So it makes no difference which holiday. Just Sukkos is the one that they used to get. They used to buy extra fruit that was considered to be, assumed to be for, in those days at least, to be for after the Moed. And so therefore the question is, are you allowed to do it for then? Anyway, so Lamaisa, you're allowed to, and Yom Tov's included. The poskim all point out, or I don't know, not all, but Shemir Shabbos Kelchasa points out that even, let's say you have a Yom Tov, well, first of all, you're allowed to do everything for the second day Yom Tov as well. Here, let me read that. Umutar likno letzarech Yom Tov sheni shel Yom Tov achron. Even the second day, we don't say, the second day, is a suffix. Maybe it's not really a Yom Tov. Once we establish it as Yom Tov, we're allowed to do it. A lashon in the tour is the lo yizalzulubo, because then you might be mezalzel and treat it like a regular day of Yom Tov. If you pretend it's Chol and don't buy and prepare for it, it's a problem. Also, Lamaisa, Shemar Shabbos says, for let's say you have Shabbos after Yom Tov. We learned you're not allowed to prepare for Chol HaMoed for after Yom Tov. What about Shabbos? So, number one, that he says, for sure you're even allowed to make an Erev Tavshilin and cook on Yom Tov for Shabbos that comes right afterwards. So he says, Kol Shekain you're allowed to buy. What happens if you have only one extra day in between? Let's say Friday. Can you buy during Chol HaMoed so you'll have food for Shabbos? Or even Thursday? So the poskim say it's okay. Either because it's achila. Here, there's a few reasons that are given. Either because of, where did I put it? There's the concept of letzorach mitzvah. Anything, this is an important principle, anything that's letzorach mitzvah, that's melachet hedyot, you're allowed to do on Chol HaMoed for after Chol HaMoed. That's from the Machzor Shekel. The Pischei Tshuva brings that down. It's also in Shemir Shabbos. And another Sefara where you're allowed to prepare on Chol HaMoed for afterwards is Hoel Miklaya Orchim. You can overbuy and just say, well, maybe Orchim are going to come, or a little bit like Hoel Mitoch, and that's also brought down in there, so that there's no problem against food. In general, you can buy anytime you're allowed to buy. You're allowed to buy as much as you need. as long, for Chol Hamoed, and you don't have to worry about, well, I have to make sure I'm going to finish it on Yom Tov and not have any extra. No, you don't have to be crazy like that. You can do whatever you need. By the way, I just want to shout out to Rav Shlomo Conway, who listens to our shir. I think the sefer he referenced was Chol Hamoed Kil Hilchasa, and so he pointed out, what about buying extra stuff? Can you buy extra? So food. Okay, so let's outside of food for sure. So the poskim point out, who I've seen write about it, you're not allowed to buy any extra, but in the Be'er Moshe, in Shemir Shabbos Kil Chasa, a couple of places they mention the halacha of marba b'shiurim doesn't apply in Chol Hamoed. It also doesn't apply on Yom Tov, only on Shabbos. So there's not a problem if you're going to buy one sack of flour or whatever it is. You don't have to keep it to a minimum. You sell a package. It comes with a lot of stuff inside. It's one big package, even though there's, you can have 10 paper towels in one pack. All these cases of what might be marba b'shiurim is not a problem. And they say even you're allowed to cook. Let's say you make a big pot. Bechavana, you're allowed to cook extra in your pot, knowing it's going to give you extra for a chol, not even just for Shabbos. But to buy, and if it's going to be, you're going to sell, you buy more, you get better pricing. These are all real heterim. But to buy, you want to buy one shirt, to buy an extra shirt, that would be aser. That's not called marba b'shiurim. I think that pretty much
it might be really difficult to get that store again.
If there's davar ave, there's davar ave. But otherwise, then certainly you're allowed to buy a bigger bowl. You only need a small bowl for Chol Hamoed, but now you want to get a bigger one to have. You might as well just buy whatever you want. You can buy a bus ticket with as many tokens on there or whatever as possible. V'chule. So that pretty much takes us for most of. Okay, we're done.